All right. Hello and welcome back. We are going to be talking about in this episode the three areas that seven-figure earners are actually paying attention to in their business, which is why they're generating seven figures. So we're going to break down each one. I want to also preface this with very similar to the last episode that I actually just recorded with if seven-figure, well, you know what? Let's just go into it. So seven-figure earners are paying attention to the really important tasks. I want you to think of the Pareto principle, 80%, 20%, okay? When you are a seven-figure earner, you're paying attention to basically the 20% part of your business that is going to be responsible for generating the revenue, for bringing in the money and bringing in the sales, which means that 80% of the business is taken care of by somebody else. So when 80% of the business is taken care of by somebody else, that means you have an assistant. That means you have somebody who's going to be creating graphics for you. That means you have somebody who's probably going to be doing the editing. That means you have somebody who's probably going to be putting together time codes or show notes. You're not doing those tasks because you're focused on the tasks that are going to generate you money. And so of that 20%, these three key factors are contained within that 20% in my perspective and in my experience. So the first one is messaging and offers. So messaging and offers to me go together because your messaging goes into your offer and your offer is part of your messaging. So to me, they work hand in hand. And also to me, messaging and offers encapsulates content. I am not saying that content is not important, but what I am saying is that content is not the paramount thing for you to pay attention to in a business. There's other areas in your business that are going to be very important for you to pay attention to. And I can attest to seven-figure earners definitely paying attention to one of, if not all three of these things. So first one is ultimately messaging offers. In all honesty, I'd call it communication. I feel like communication, we're chunking up right now, okay? Communication is really important because how you communicate with other people is going to determine how they're going to want to enter a relationship with you. Are you going to be able to serve their needs? Are you going to be able to solve their problem? Are you offering something that they need help with? Are you, do you understand them? Can they relate to you? Can they trust you? And all of that is going to be expressed through your communication. We're going to go into in another episode how your communication is actually it's broken up between three different aspects. And one of the aspects is actually very, very small. And so we're going to talk about that in a later episode. But I really want to stress the importance of communication as one of the three tasks, the three areas that business owners, seven-figure earners, probably even 8, 9, 10-figure earners, billionaires are thinking about, and that's communication. The second area that they're thinking about is their money. You better believe that they're thinking about their investments. They're thinking about how many people are coming in, how much they're worth to them, how much they cost, how much they're profiting, how much their expenses are. Can they figure out a way to retain more clients? Because believe it or not, a 2% increase in client retention is more effective and is the same amount of money brought in as if you cut costs by 10%. Okay, so think about this. If you have expenses of, let's say, $2,000, right? 10% of $2,000 is $200. It is easier for you to get $200 from people who are already in your world. So you increase your client retention by 2% to basically do the same thing as cutting costs by 10%. So you don't have to necessarily get rid of Kajabi, right? But what you do need to do is find a way to get someone who's already in your world to continue being in your world, because at a higher level, because that's going to bring in the same amount, if not a little bit more per lead than cutting costs by 10%. Pretty impressive what client retention does. And I'm going to harp on this until the cows come home. Financial literacy and client retention, customer journey are the two most important things in your business. Two most important things, and they are the most effective tools for you to create a profitable and sustainable business. Keywords: profitable and sustainable, because I could go on this rant for days. Like, I seriously can. You could create all of the programs at I don't know how many different price points in the world. It's not going to be profitable if you don't understand finance and you don't understand numbers and money. And it's also not going to be sustainable if you have to stay on the content creation hamster wheel, getting new leads in. Slow down. Just keep the people who are in your world, and then it won't cost you as much money. Okay, I digress. So the first thing that they're paying attention to is their communication, their messaging, their offers. The second thing they're paying attention to is their money. Where's their money going? Where is it coming from? How can they make more? How can they do more with the money that they have? Can they increase their streams, their revenue streams? Can they add a new stream? Can they, start a new business? Can they acquire a business? What are they doing with their money? I guarantee you, I know. I don't even have to guarantee. I know that there are multiple 7- and 8-figure business owners who are watching their money, and they watch it like a hawk. The third and final area that 7-figure business owners are paying attention to is their personal branding, their stories, and their identity. 7-figure business owners understand and know that there are things that they need to work on, and that there are things about themselves they need to work within, right? Because it's not just this external journey, it's an internal journey as well. And I saw this video earlier, and I think that, a lot of people have probably heard this, but I think that this is really the icing and the cherry on top of this particular episode, is that your perception creates your perspective, like your reality, right? So like how you perceive things is how you're going to project things into the world. And if your perception, your identity, your personal brand, who you are and how you exist in your stories, if your perception is skewed in any way, then it's going to come off that way when you interact with people and when you communicate with people, right? So it is definitely a personal development identity journey. Sometimes for people that looks like going into therapy and figuring these things out. I've seen plenty of business owners go into therapy because of things that are going on in their business or within the members, because of course the experience that I have is that multiple owners of this business needed to work things out on a personal identity level. And they had these stories, personal branding and stories about themselves and about the situation that are not necessarily true. They are creating these stories because of their perception of things. So the third thing that I know that 7-figure earners are working on is their perception, their personal identity, the stories that they're telling themselves, the stories that they're telling others, and their identity, like who they are, how they come across, what their stories that they carry are, that are within them, but also that they tell other people. So I wanted to come in and talk about this because I feel like a lot of people just focus on just one of these components. And in all honesty, if you're going to have a successful business, it's really all three. And it's a combination, of course, at different times of maybe 1 and 3 or 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 and 2, whatever it might look like. There is a combination of these particular areas working at all times, and 7-figure earners by far they're focusing on these tasks to move the business every day. They're not focusing on the emails or the graphics or the notes or the tickets, whatever it might be. They're focusing on the bigger tasks at hand, which include the communication, which include the finances, and which include the personal identity work. And when I say personal identity work, I really mean stories, because that plays in with your personal branding and how you would communicate. And it also plays in with how you're creating relationships with people and even the relationship that you have with money. So that's why I say personal identity work. The other thing that I want to bring up really, really fast, now that I thought about it for a second, and I feel like now it just flew right out of my head. And maybe if you're watching the YouTube video, you saw it fly out of my head. I had it and then it just whoop. The other thing that 7-figure business owners are very aware of is definitely mainly those three. I really lost it. I like had it and I was like so ready to keep talking about it, and then I lost it. So what I want to do is I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for your subscription. If you're watching this and you're new to the YouTube channel, definitely be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications. And I will talk to you very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in.